What if I told you there was once a prayer, so powerful, so direct, that it was said to bring blessings of abundance to anyone who spoke it with faith? A prayer whispered through generations, and then erased from the sacred texts. Hidden. Forgotten. Almost as if someone didn't want you to know it ever existed. Imagine, for a moment, an ancient verse capable of unlocking divine wealth. Not just coins or possessions, but a flow of prosperity that touched every part of life. A psalm so bold, it spoke of abundance as a divine right, not a sin. Now ask yourself, if such a prayer once existed, why would it be removed? And who would have the power to erase it? In this video, we'll journey deep into one of the most fascinating mysteries of ancient spirituality, the prayer that was said to have vanished from sacred writings. You'll discover the legends surrounding it, what ancient scholars and mystics believed about its words, and how its message of divine prosperity might still live hidden in plain sight within other verses. We'll explore forgotten manuscripts and lost translations, where clues appear in faint ink and scattered fragments. We'll uncover how this mysterious psalm might have been linked to early wisdom traditions that taught that wealth, when received with gratitude, was a reflection of divine harmony, not greed. You'll see how the message of this prayer may have shaped ideas of abundance across centuries, quietly influencing teachings about generosity, faith, and manifestation. And here's the real secret: while the exact words may have been lost, the energy behind them has not. It still moves through certain prayers, symbols, and affirmations that have survived. By the end of this video, you'll understand not only why this psalm may have been hidden but also how you can reconnect with its timeless message to attract abundance into your own life. Stay with me until the end, because each part of this story reveals a new piece of the puzzle, a truth that could change how you see faith, wealth, and divine connection forever. Welcome to Bright Mind Within. If you're drawn to uncovering the wisdom that others overlook, the secrets of the mind, the spirit, and the universe, then you've found your place. Make sure to subscribe, and let's begin uncovering the lost prayer of wealth that time tried to erase. The Psalms are among the most loved and timeless parts of sacred scripture. They are poems, songs, and prayers that speak to every human emotion: hope, fear, joy, gratitude, and faith. Across centuries, believers have turned to them for comfort, strength, and guidance. But beyond comfort, the Psalms also hold powerful messages about abundance, prosperity, and divine blessing. When you open the book of Psalms, you'll notice that it doesn't shy away from the subject of wealth. Psalm 112 says clearly, "Wealth and riches are in their houses, and their righteousness endures forever." It connects prosperity not with greed, but with goodness, a reward for those who live righteously and give generously. Psalm 23, one of the most famous, describes a life of overflowing blessings. "My cup runneth over." These words speak of divine provision, of having more than enough. They reflect a belief that abundance, both spiritual and material, can flow naturally when a person walks in faith. Psalm 1:2 paints the image of a person whose life blossoms because of divine favor, whatever they do prospers. This idea appears again and again throughout the Psalms, a reminder that spiritual alignment often brings material harmony. The blessings are not only about gold or grain, but about peace of mind, strong relationships, health, and the joy of knowing one's needs are always met. In these sacred verses, prosperity is not condemned. It is seen as a reflection of divine order. When a person lives in truth, prays with sincerity, and shares with an open heart, abundance becomes a natural state of being. The Psalms quietly remind us that wealth, when connected to gratitude and purpose, is part of the divine promise woven into human life. Among scholars, mystics, and spiritual seekers, there is a quiet but persistent story that has circulated for centuries, the story of a lost psalm. Some call it the hidden psalm of wealth, a prayer said to hold divine words of abundance and prosperity that were once part of sacred texts but mysteriously disappeared. According to these accounts, it was not destroyed by accident. It was deliberately removed, silenced, or hidden from the public eye. The idea alone sparks both curiosity and unease. Why would a prayer that celebrates divine abundance be erased? Those who support this claim offer different explanations. Some suggest that the prayer's message was too direct, too empowering. It taught that every human being carries the right to receive and create prosperity through divine alignment. Religious authorities of the time may have seen this as dangerous. If ordinary people believed they had direct access to divine wealth and spiritual power, it could weaken institutional control. Others believe it was removed for theological reasons, to prevent the pursuit of material wealth from overshadowing spiritual devotion. There may have been fear that such a psalm could be misused, turning faith into a tool for greed rather than gratitude. Over time, fragments of this belief appeared in mystical traditions, passed down through secret teachings or hidden manuscripts. Some esoteric groups even claim to preserve portions of this erased prayer in coded symbols or chants. Though historians have found no firm evidence, no page or text that can be confirmed, the persistence of this story suggests something deeper. Legends of erased verses often survive because they echo a truth people feel within, that divine abundance is real, and that somewhere, long ago, there may have been words meant to remind humanity of that forgotten power. When researchers study the world's oldest manuscripts, they often uncover fragments that hint at a much larger story, traces of prayers and verses that never made it into the final versions of sacred scripture. These are known as apocryphal texts, writings that were once read, shared, or even revered, but later set aside when the official collections were formed. Within these forgotten pages, scholars have found words of praise, invocations, and prayers that resemble the tone of the Psalms, yet are missing from the canon. Some of them speak directly of abundance, divine favor, or wealth as a gift of the Creator. Historians have found that ancient scribes sometimes reused parchment due to its value. Old texts were scraped away and overwritten with new ones, creating what is known as a palimpsest. Under layers of ink, modern technology has revealed faint traces of older writings, lost gospels, hidden psalms, and unknown prayers once thought erased forever. These discoveries feed the theory that certain prayers, including one that might have focused on wealth, could have been intentionally covered up or replaced as doctrines evolved. Apocryphal prayers are not unusual. Many early believers wrote personal songs of devotion or recorded oral traditions that carried deep spiritual messages. Over time, councils and religious leaders chose which writings to preserve as sacred and which to exclude. This process left behind countless manuscripts that still stir debate today. Among theologians, there is no agreement on whether the so-called erased Psalm of Wealth ever truly existed. Some see it as myth, born from human longing for divine abundance. Others argue that such erasure was possible, given how easily ancient texts could be altered, rewritten, or lost. The mystery endures, written between the lines of faded ink and forgotten pages. Those who speak of the hidden Psalm of Wealth describe it as a message of divine harmony, a reminder that abundance is not separate from spirituality but a reflection of it. According to these teachings, the prayer spoke of wealth not as something to chase, but as something to align with. It suggested that true prosperity flows from a balanced spirit, from gratitude, generosity, and faith in divine order. The psalm is said to affirm that God blesses abundance, not to create inequality, but to express the fullness of creation itself. The hidden psalm, as described in ancient accounts and mystical writings, teaches that prosperity is a natural part of spiritual life. When a person lives in alignment with divine principles, truth, honesty, compassion, and service, wealth naturally follows, not as reward, but as resonance. It also warns that wealth carries responsibility. Material blessing must be used wisely, shared freely, and managed with righteousness. The teaching emphasizes stewardship over possession, reminding believers that abundance given is abundance sustained. This message finds clear echoes in known psalms. Psalm 23 speaks of overflowing blessings, "My cup runneth over." Psalm 112 honors those who are generous and righteous, "Good will come to those who are generous and lend freely." Psalm 1 celebrates the prosperity of the faithful, "Whatever they do prospers." Across different traditions, similar ideas appear: Jesus' parable of the talents, the Buddhist law of karma, and the Hindu principle of dharma all express that wealth, when aligned with virtue, becomes sacred. The hidden psalm's voice, though lost in text, seems to continue through these echoes. It reflects a vision of divine abundance that does not divide the spiritual from the material, but weaves them together as one truth of creation, prosperity as a form of divine light expressed through a grateful heart. One of the strongest theories about the disappearance of the so-called Psalm of Wealth is that it was not lost by accident but removed on purpose. In the early centuries of organized religion, leaders often faced a delicate balance, encouraging faith in divine provision while guarding against the worship of wealth itself. To them, wealth was a blessing only when guided by humility and gratitude. The fear was that people might treat the words of this prayer as a form of magic, repeating them to summon riches instead of seeking genuine spiritual connection. Such fears were not unfounded. In many traditions, words held immense power. Prayers were seen as direct bridges to the divine, and any text promising material abundance could easily be misunderstood or misused. To prevent this, religious authorities began setting strict boundaries about which writings could be shared and which might lead believers astray. A prayer that openly spoke of wealth could blur the line between faith and greed, and so, according to some theories, it was quietly set aside. Others believed the decision was not purely spiritual but also political. If individuals believed they could manifest prosperity directly through divine favor, it would weaken the authority of the institutions that claimed to mediate that favor. Keeping such prayers hidden ensured control over doctrine, over power, and over interpretation of sacred words. The debate reflects a timeless tension that still exists today, the struggle to understand whether wealth is a divine reward or a worldly distraction. Faith calls for detachment from greed, yet life in abundance is seen as a sign of divine blessing. Between these two truths lies a fragile balance, one that ancient leaders may have tried to preserve by erasing a prayer they feared people were not ready to use wisely. Even though the so-called hidden Psalm of Wealth may never have been found, its essence still breathes through countless teachings, sermons, and quiet prayers said every day. The language may have changed, but the heart of its message, trust in divine provision and the wise use of abundance, continues to guide believers around the world. You can hear it in the words of preachers who speak of faith as a key to receiving blessings, and in the private whispers of those who thank God for the smallest gifts in their lives. Faith in divine provision remains the foundation. It is the belief that the universe, or God, provides what is needed in perfect timing. This faith replaces fear with calm assurance. It teaches that scarcity is an illusion, and that when one aligns with divine order, all necessary things flow naturally. Along with faith comes stewardship, the understanding that wealth, whether large or small, is not to be hoarded but managed with care and generosity. The act of giving strengthens the cycle of receiving, allowing abundance to circulate and grow. Equally vital are gratitude and humility. These qualities keep wealth sacred. Gratitude turns possession into blessing, while humility reminds the soul that material comfort is temporary and secondary to spiritual truth. Together, they ensure that prosperity remains balanced and pure. But every true teaching adds a warning: wealth is not the destination. It is only one expression of spiritual alignment. The greater goal is growth, an awakening of the soul to its divine nature. When faith, generosity, and gratitude unite, abundance ceases to be about possessions and becomes a reflection of spiritual maturity, a reminder that the richest life is one lived close to the divine source. The story of the hidden Psalm of Wealth, while captivating, faces many challenges. Historians and theologians often point out that there is no solid proof such a prayer ever existed in any known manuscript. No verified fragment, codex, or translation has ever revealed its words. Most of what is said about it comes from oral traditions, mystical writings, or interpretations passed through generations. For this reason, scholars remain cautious. They see the tale as more symbolic than historical, a legend that speaks to humanity's timeless desire to unite spiritual faith with material well-being. Another concern is how this idea can easily be distorted. When stories about divine wealth are taken too literally, they can slip into what many call the prosperity gospel, a belief that faith automatically guarantees financial gain. This view can lead people away from the heart of true spirituality. Instead of cultivating inner growth, gratitude, and love, they may begin to use prayer as a tool for personal profit. The risk lies in forgetting that spiritual texts were never meant to be formulas for wealth, but guides to align human intention with divine wisdom. This is why balance is essential. The mystery of the hidden psalm should inspire reflection, not obsession. Seeking abundance is not wrong, but it becomes dangerous when it turns into greed or superstition. When people start believing that repeating a few words can replace genuine faith and effort, they lose the deeper meaning behind prayer itself. The true lesson lies in harmony, understanding that wealth can serve a divine purpose when guided by love, humility, and awareness. Without this balance, even the most sacred words lose their power and become mere echoes of human desire rather than expressions of divine truth. The mystery of the hidden psalm of wealth may never be solved. We may never hold a fragment of it in our hands or read the exact words said to bring divine abundance. But perhaps that's not the point. What matters is that its message, the belief that true prosperity is both spiritual and material, still echoes through time. It reminds us that faith, gratitude, and generosity are the real keys to an abundant life. So now, ask yourself, what is your prayer for prosperity? How do you invite abundance into your life, with trust, with kindness, with purpose? The Psalms that remain in sacred scripture already hold deep wisdom for those who read them with an open heart. Maybe the hidden psalm was never truly lost, maybe its spirit lives within every verse that speaks of divine blessing, compassion, and joy. I invite you to explore those timeless prayers for yourself. Read them slowly. Feel their rhythm. Let their meaning sink into your life and actions. The answers you seek may already be waiting between the lines. Do you believe there was ever a lost psalm of wealth? Or do you think its story exists to remind us that no divine truth can ever be erased? Share your thoughts below, I'd love to hear what you think. If you found this message meaningful, give this video a like and subscribe to our channel, Bright Mind Within, for more explorations into the mysteries of faith, energy, and consciousness. In our upcoming videos, we'll continue uncovering ancient wisdom and hidden truths that can help you connect more deeply with your inner power and the divine source of all abundance.